Very pleased to have with us here in studio Catherine Mortensen from NRA's Institute for Legislative Action. Catherine, how are you?
Great. Thank you, Cam.
Absolutely. It's good to actually see you in person.
Thank you. Same. Likewise.
I appreciate all of the times that you've come in here. And tomorrow, again, a very, very key day for all of us as Americans, but for gun owners around the country as well. I mean, this is a real opportunity for us to get out there and defend our freedom and defend our rights.
Right. Well, so at the NRA-ILA, we're sort of the political wing of the NRA. We're doing the lobbying and the campaign endorsements. I would say we are cautiously optimistic. We're optimistic because we're looking at the same poll numbers everyone else is seeing. We're looking that looks like some of our pro-gun candidates are leading in the polls in the critical states like Colorado, Iowa, North Carolina, Arkansas, Louisiana. We're looking good, so there's some reason for optimism, but we are cautious because I think the biggest unknown here is voter turnout. That is what everything hangs on.
Mm-hmm.
And we are just at this last minute asking people who are Second Amendment supporters and NRA members to vote. And if they have a mail-in ballot, like Colorado is doing all mail-in, Washington State, drop those off with their county clerk. Make sure they're counted and don't take a single vote for granted. I think that can't be overstated.
No, absolutely. You know, one of the things that when former Mayor Michael Bloomberg first announced that he was going to spend $50 million this year, and he said he wanted to have an organization that that politicians would fear, like the NRA, like they fear the NRA. And you know, I don't know how many politicians fear the NRA versus respect the NRA, but where that comes from, as you say, is the members, the NRA members who are known to get out. They're a known quantity on Election Day. They get out there and vote. And by the way, I will say this: they get out and vote even if their favorite candidate lost in the primary election. They are known to get out there and support their rights, to show up at the polls. It is a duty. We talk about the right to vote, but we have a duty, I think, to vote in this country and to protect our freedoms. And again, the NRA is known for members who do get out there and do that. And so I'm right there with you. I would encourage every NRA member to make sure, you know, hopefully by now they've gone to visit triggerthevote.org. They know that they're registered. They've signed up friends and family members. But tomorrow's the day that we make sure that nobody stays on the couch.
Right. I mean, we can't stay on the couch. Michael Bloomberg has put an unprecedented amount of money. He pledged $50 million towards this election cycle alone. And I think even the smallest victories he gets anywhere around the country, he's going to claim some sort of mandate. I mean, you know that he will. And he'll come back at us 2 years from now, and 2 years and 2 years. Every 2 years we'll be facing this. I think our goal at the NRA-ILA is to knock him down, and we want to make this painful for him, as painful as possible. We want to see some of those anti-gun governors like Hickenlooper in Colorado. We want him out of a job. We want to send an unequivocal message to elected officials across the country. Don't mess with our Second Amendment rights. And if we can send that message this year loud and clear, I think there's a chance that the Michael Bloombergs will walk away and find some other fight, you know, find another issue to go after. But, I mean, we want them off our issue. Go away.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. Even if they don't go away, and I have a feeling that might be kind of hard for that. Yeah, but you look at these races right now, Catherine. In Colorado, Governor Hickenlooper is not out there with ads touting his support for the gun control laws. In Connecticut, Daniel Malloy is facing an incredibly tough re-election fight. Bloomberg is pouring millions. I think the last ad buy I saw, maybe it was to a super PAC contribution, there was $1.7 million in the state of Connecticut. Nowhere really do you find candidates that are out there trumpeting their support for additional gun control laws. In fact, there have been a lot of stories written by the national media wondering, where is gun control in this election? And then we saw the Gallup poll last week that showed support for new gun control laws below 50%, 47%. Among women, support has dropped in the past 2 years from 69% to 55%. You know, these people who are wondering, well, where's the gun control issue? I'll tell you where the gun control issue is. It's buried at the bottom of the priorities for voters because most Americans don't want to see new gun control laws.
They don't. That's absolutely right. And I'll say the reason why I think more and more Americans are coming to our side and recognizing the importance of their Second Amendment rights, every time we have a big national debate and everyone's out talking about it like they were after the Newtown incident, the more people learn and get educated about the Second Amendment, we find that they begin to come to our side. So we've had a big national debate on it. People have gotten the facts. They've learned what their amendment, the Second Amendment, really is.
Mm-hmm.
And more people are with us. So I think that's why you're seeing more and more Americans calling for, in fact, looser gun control laws, allowing more people access to concealed carry permits, and fewer people are asking for, restrictions on those rights. It's a scary world. People want to be able to take responsibility for their own self-defense.
Absolutely. And now I think we've seen in a lot of these localities, the barriers that are put in place are so apparent. They're so obvious. You look at how Washington, D.C. responded to a judge telling them, you're violating people's constitutional rights. You are infringing on their rights. And their response was to craft as restrictive a policy as they thought the courts would let them get away with. You look at what happened to Shanine Allen in New Jersey, who was facing 11 years in prison for being a concealed carry holder who made a mistake and brought her gun into New Jersey, told the police officer because she wanted to be a responsible gun owner, and she was facing 11 years. I think people see these stories and they think to themselves, this is crazy. What's going on here? These laws aren't protecting single moms in bad neighborhoods. These laws aren't protecting good people who want to be able to exercise their rights. These laws are depriving them of their ability to protect themselves and the people that they love.
Right, absolutely. So we know that the more people learn about what's going on with this issue and open up to what's the reality of these universal background checks that Michael Bloomberg is pushing in Washington state, they realize this isn't really going to solve a crime problem. It's not going to make anyone safer. This is just more bureaucratic pile-on. When people begin to see the reality of that, they step back and they come to our side and they recognize that they do need to get out there and vote for this Second Amendment.
Let's talk about Washington State if we can for a second, because this is an issue where not just Michael Bloomberg, but Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer, Paul Allen have poured millions of dollars into advertising on this campaign. On the other side, you've got a majority of county sheriffs. I think about 2/3 of these states' county sheriffs who are opposed to this measure. And it's been, Catherine, honestly, it's kind of been like pulling teeth to get the media to report this. It's been like pulling teeth to get the media to report that there are provisions within this referendum that would criminalize common behavior, again, legal, safe, responsible behavior that would be criminalized of, hey, Catherine, do you want to shoot my new gun? If we're at the range, that would turn you and I into criminals.
That's absolutely right. And we've been trying to get that word out. And you are right. The Washington state media has not been very welcoming to our message. It has been very difficult to get out there on their local radio and TV stations. But we've been trying.
Yeah.
But again, I just keep coming back to the point that you brought up earlier. I think it's all going to rest on turnout and our grassroots support. And we know we have it in Washington state. And we are just, urging everyone who's on the side of the Second Amendment to vote against that ballot initiative in Washington state 594. It's gotten a decent amount of national attention. But, again, the issue there is it's Michael Bloomberg and his billionaire cronies, and if they're successful there in passing this gun control measure, they will cut and paste it and take it all over the country, and you'll start seeing it in your home state.
Yeah. All right. So we've got a couple of other referendums out there. There's a anti-bear hunting referendum in Maine that I think is going to be really interesting to see. HSUS has poured in about, I think, 97% of the dollars in that anti-hunting initiative. Down in Mississippi, there's the Right to Hunt and Fish constitutional amendment that I know NRA is supporting. But what are some of in the last couple of minutes that we have, Catherine, obviously every election that the NRA endorses a candidate is important to the organization. But are there certain races out there that NRA-ILA or the Political Victory Fund is really sort of keyed in on that gun owners should be looking at tomorrow night as we see these results start to come in?
Sure. I think they're going to want to look at on the East Coast as the race comes in North Carolina to see how that goes. I think that's going to be a big indicator. If Tom Tillis, who's backed by the NRA, if he wins, I think that's going to be very positive for us. And then Louisiana will start getting those results. And we're going to want to see Bill Cassidy. He's, of course, challenging the incumbent Mary Landrieu. And that, I think a lot of the experts are saying, could go into a runoff. So we may not know even tomorrow night who wins that. But we certainly would like to see Mary Landrieu out of office. She has not been a friend to gun rights and to gun owners. And then going west, we're going to be looking at Arkansas. That's a big one. We'd like to see Pryor lose his seat and Tom Cotton win. And then Colorado has just been getting so much attention, and that's my home state. So I've been following that one closely. And we just love Cory Gardner, and we think he's just been a fantastic supporter of the Second Amendment. We'd like to see him win in Colorado. So I think those are some of the key ones. Iowa, Joni Ernst. She's been putting up a great fight, and she's been a super supporter of ours in the state legislature. She has a terrific track record. So those are the races we're watching in the Senate. And if we can get that Senate back into a pro-Second Amendment, pro-gun majority, we have the chance to pass great legislation. One of ours, you've talked about a lot, is that concealed carry reciprocity Act. We'd love to see that passed. I mean, clearly we're still going to have to deal with President Obama.
But these matter. These votes matter. If you send legislation with, 61 or 62 votes, and keep in mind, there will be Democrats who will vote for this legislation. If you send that to a president's desk and it's vetoed, that's a far different cry than getting 58 votes in the Senate and not being able to meet that cloture requirement. It sends, as you say, that very real message. Plus, over the next 2 years, we may have Supreme Court nominations. We certainly are going to have other confirmation fights. And with the rules as they are right now of just 51 votes needed to confirm, well, that puts a stop to some of the, I don't want to say court packing schemes, but certainly like the D.C. Court of Appeals. Been a lot of new nominees by President Obama. That'll make it a lot harder for the executive to do that without the advice and consent and approval of Congress.
That's absolutely right. And we just can't overstate enough how important it is to get out and vote. I mean, I know a lot of people like to follow politics and they're informed and they like to talk about it, but some of those people fail to show up at the voting booth, on Election Day. And we can't have that. This is the one election where if we don't show up, Michael Bloomberg will claim victory if he wins, anything he wins. If he gets an anti-gun control candidate in there, he'll claim victory and he'll be back and with more money, and we have an opportunity to stop him now. And I think that's what I'm asking our supporters to do, is make sure they vote with their heart and, care about this.
Absolutely. Catherine, listen, thank you so much for coming in studio today. It's a pleasure as always.
Thank you so much.
Catherine Mortensen with NRA's Institute for Legislative Action.